All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Made New Project. Today, we have special guest, Michael Graziani, one of my best friends. I've known him we're a little bit over 13 years now, about 13 and a half years, January 2013. He was raised in Freeport, Florida. He did over 10 years active duty, both on the enlisted side and the officer side. He is Ranger qualified, Sapper qualified, the Van Autruve Award winner, two-time Best Sapper Competition competitor. He was an E5 on the enlisted side and then up to captain on the officer side in the military. He is the father of Maddox and Joseph and the husband to Sierra. He is a man of sobriety, also a man of faith, and he is our special guest today. So, dude, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
We have conversations like all the time, so for us to do one recorded, it shouldn't be an issue because it's just pretty natural for us to just be talking about anything at any given time.
Definitely.
Hopefully today I hear something that I've never heard before, but it's not going to be easy.
That's going to be tough. You know me pretty well. So.
Yeah, so Graz has done a lot of stuff. Like I was mentioning, guys, he was in the military. We went to basic training together. We met there. We didn't know each other beforehand. I was from California. He was from Florida. So immediately there was some sort of like coastal boys like vibe, something like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think we just vibed together in basic. Once I found out he was in California, I'm from Florida. It's that beach hippie vibe kind of thing. Really got us going.
Yeah, that and then just sports, you know. And we both were big baseball fans and just into sports in general. We were all competitive in everything we did. Graz was also the fastest runner in our basic training company, running a 10:27.
Yeah,
10:27 2-mile, folks. So we're talking 5:13 and a half mile pace for 2 miles.
Good old days.
Graz was a stud. He maxed the PT test back when it was push-ups, sit-ups, and the 2-mile run. I always beat him on push-ups though, and this irritated Graz. This dude trained push-ups just to beat me. We'd be in the bays just ripping push-ups. We're shirtless in there like dog tag slapping off the floor. You think it's the coolest thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we gravitate towards each other. Competitive spirit, you know, you're always trying to surround yourself with like-minded people that would challenge you. You definitely challenged me. You beat me in a lot of things. I beat you in a lot of things. I think it's a good competitive environment that we created.
Yeah, it started early just with competition. And then, you know, folks, being an engineer basic training, there are different like tabs, things you can earn on these walls that you look at day in and day out. And you're just a little baby in the Army, you know, and you think every day you're going through is super important. And then you're seeing these things that other people are doing. And these peoples are giants, you know, and if you guys listen to the podcast with Jess, we talk a lot about, you know, these people, it seems unattainable at that point. We were, you know, having a double tab, you know, a stack on your side, which Ranger, Sapper, Airborne qualified. That was what we saw. I remember seeing that. We used to draw it in our notebooks. You remember doing that? Like we would draw like Airborne and this and that in our notebooks.
I mean, it's something we always talked about. And we go to DFAC and we see the Sappers come in there and then we're all just, you know, in awe, standing at attention, just giving them the respect because, you know, we knew they were in a grinding, and that was the top of the engineer regiment. So
yeah, so from right in the beginning, like we just had big goals, really for each other. Like they were individual goals, but we were all gonna do it eventually, you know. And so as we get into it, like we'll talk about going through those schools. But leading into the Army, Graz was 20 years old. I was 18, so he's got a couple years on me. He is my elder here, so I'll be as respectful as possible. But yeah, you could tell there's no gray today. But if he grew it out a little bit, we'd see the gray.
I guess.
But so what led you to the Army?
Yeah, so I grew up playing sports, super competitive. I really put, you know, all my energy towards sports and going to that next level. Well, it didn't really turn out that way. I did a year of college. I worked on the beach. I had a best friend named J.R. Fannin, and we both worked on the beach. We were the little cabana boys running chairs and umbrellas. And you know what? That time of my life, I was a little wild. Partied too much, ended up hitting $0 in my bank account. JR signed up for the Army, told me, hey, come to recruiting office. I did that day. I signed up, didn't tell any of my family. I kind of just, you know, I told the recruiter I want to go wherever he goes. So we were that close, and that's the day I signed up for the Army, and that's what brought me in. I had $0 in my bank account, and I had to do something. So
yeah, that's nuts. growing up, like how was life growing up? Like, so a lot of people might think Florida, they think beaches, they think mansions, right? They think people with money, boats, stuff like this. I know your upbringing to be a little different than that, but could you explain it just a little bit for the folks?
Yeah, I mean, majority of Florida, that's where people go to retire. They go to the beach side, and there is mansions and all the nice stuff, but you drive 30 minutes across the bridge over there to Freeport, Definiak Springs area. That's where the money is not. And I kind of grew up very. I'm grateful for how I grew up, but less fortunate. I grew up in a single wide trailer. Always had the stuff packed in boxes, so you really couldn't see our floor most of the time. Everything was ready to go. We stayed there a couple months to a year until my parents couldn't afford rent anymore, and then we'd go ahead and pack up and move on to the next one, save up enough for a security deposit, move into the next rental. And I think I moved around probably 4 or 5 times, and from middle school to high school in general. So if that can tell you anything, we were just trying to make ends meet, and my parents did the best they could. So that's pretty much me and how I grew up. A lot of people in my area grew up that way. Of course, the majority of what you think of Florida, they are on the beach. They do have the mansions. They do have the money. But there's a lot of people in Florida on the north side, closer to Alabama, that's struggling. So.
Yeah, and they still are, and that's so there's 2 paths, right? If you live like that, if you grow up like that, there's 2 paths. I didn't grow up like this, folks. I never went without. I wouldn't say spoiled or rich in any way, but I never went without. I'd structured home. I had my parents had stable jobs, things like this. But there's a choice, and the choice is to be a victim to who you are as a child, and for the rest of your life, you see people. They just blame it. They go, oh, well, I grew up like this. This is what I know. I wasn't able to get out of it. Well, they usually don't even take accountability in that way. It's just, this is the way it is. You chose a different path. At what age do you think you were like, I don't want to live like this when I grow up? Do you think you had a moment like that?
Yeah, I think actually when I was about 16 years old, I started driving, and I really started realizing how much that how much stuff costs, gas, stuff like that. And I realized that, hey, I also had my first job. My mom had a little landscape business, and I worked for her, bought my first car. And that's when I realized, hey, actually, the harder I work, the more I put into it, the better my life could be. So I would say when I turned 16, started getting my own responsibilities. I paid my own phone since 16 and on. Mm-hmm. I paid for everything of mine since 16 and on. And then 18, I was completely independent doing my own thing. So I think when I first got my first vehicle, started paying my own bills, that's the realization that the harder I worked, stuff would come to fruition.
Yeah. So you get this mindset at 16, start working hard, but we just explained around 19 and a half, you're dead broke. Yeah, so how'd that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up, I was not the party type, everybody else, high school parties, they're doing their thing, they're drinking, they're smoking, they're doing all that. I wasn't into that scene. I was solely focused on trying to play baseball at the next level, and I thought that those things would definitely prevent me from doing that. And they do for a lot of people. So at that time, I'd made it all the way through high school. I had, like I said, we didn't have much money, so it's not like I could travel, go to these big showcases and show off my skills in baseball. And then it eventually just fizzled out. I had a girlfriend at the time, eventually got engaged to her, kind of kept me close hold to home instead of branching out and moving earlier. But I mean, I was kind of pigeonholed to that area. So after 18, I realized, hey, I'm going to try college. So I went to college for a year, ended up not wanting to go to school. I eventually flunked out. After that year, I started working on the beach, and that's where things started turning. I wanted to be like everybody else, like peer pressured, and I felt like I needed to start drinking. I needed to start partying to fit in, and I no longer had baseball or anything competitive to keep my mind straight. So I took the wrong path at that time, and eventually it came back full circle, and I just went completely broke. So I joined the military, and then my relationship fizzled out as well. So, and at that point, I had to make some changes.
Yeah, and in that moment, like, it's hard to realize, like, this is a good thing. You know what I mean? Going broke doesn't seem like a good thing. Losing your engagement doesn't seem like a good thing. But, you know, we look back and literally just 6 months after that, let's say 10 months after that, you're Ranger qualified, right? So, so you move through basic training. So you've essentially pulled yourself up by the bootstraps, I would say. You're like, I'm going to join the service. Mainly for money, was there anything like pulling you? Did you have family in the service? Did you want to serve your country? Or was it just purely like, well, JR is going, I'm just going to go to and see what happens?
You know, I did have a grandpa that I never really got to meet because he passed away when I was like 4 years old. But he was in the service. But other than that, nobody else was in the service in my family, in my immediate family. I do have like cousins and stuff like that are in the service. But at that time, you know, I made a quick decision. I knew that I thought that being in the Army was like looking at the giants, right? Like you said earlier. I thought it was like something that would bring me out of my rut and challenge me. I thought, hey, I was watching Surviving the Cut. I watched Surviving the Cut Ranger School, Surviving the Cut Sapper School, SF. I heard about Green Berets, and I was like, eventually that's where I want to be. You know, if I can't play sports anymore, I want to challenge myself in different ways. And that's what eventually, you know, selfless service, duty to others. I wanted to serve my country at that time. And then my best friend was leaving me. So I jumped on the bandwagon and I wanted to find that next challenge.
Yeah. And it ended up being a great decision. So then we, one basic training story, folks, that we can get into is we also were close, Graz, myself, Fannin, our friend Dunn, and our friend Hall, and Duncan. Is that all of us?
Duncan.
Airborne Cats?
That's
right?
Everybody.
That was everybody. So 6 of us.
And Jenkins. Jenkins came with us too.
That's right.
Yeah,
Jenkins.
Bobby Jenkins.
Yeah. And so 7 of us had airborne slots out of a couple hundred, right? A few hundred.
This is a funny story.
And yeah.
I know where you're getting at.
And so for some reason we all just already like, oh, we're going airborne. Like we are all going to go together. We're going to be close. So we got close in the middle of basic training once we find out who's going to airborne school, this and that.
Oh, yeah.
At one point, we found out we hijacked into the drill sergeant's computers. Well, not us. This other guy. Was that Coriel who did that?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Yeah,
did it?
Coriel.
One of those guys, right?
I think it was Coriel.
So they logged into the drill sergeant's computer and they figured out how to see our assignments with our cat cards. And so we weren't supposed to be on the computer, folks. That's what I'm trying to say here. But we had downtime in the bay and like somebody was watching guard for the drill sergeants and we're all coming in with our cats pretty much like in who's next. And then he's going to look up where you're going, right? Where your next assignment is. And so, you know, I go through it. I'm getting Fort Bragg. Duncan's getting Fort Bragg. Dunn's getting Fort Bragg. JR's gotten Fort Bragg. Comes to Graz. He's got South Korea. And okay, so South Korea doesn't have airborne. So it doesn't make any sense. But to us, that doesn't matter. This is what the computer says. This is where Graz is. So he comes back and we are laughing. We're laughing. He's devastated in a way.
Absolutely.
Like laughing it off in the best way we can. Because at this point, it's just, I'm screwed. Like I'm going to Korea. Like see you later, boys. And that was for months, or because we couldn't say anything to the drill sergeants because we weren't supposed to even know.
Yeah.
So until we got our assignment, like when we were holdovers for a couple weeks waiting to go to airborne school, which you still had a slot for, but then Korea.
Well, somehow the drill sergeants eventually told us where we were going.
Mm-hmm.
And they had told me, they reinforced. I was devastated, for one. I was devastated. Because, for one, I was supposed to be going with my best friend.
Yeah.
You know? Secondly, I wanted to be airborne because I knew that was my best opportunity to do the Ranger, Sapper thing, BSF. Well, at least I thought. A little bit naive at the time.
Yeah.
But our drill sergeants reinforced, hey, you're going to Korea. I said, well, hey, I have airborne in my contract. And they're like, no, you don't. And I didn't know where I was going. Well, I got the smallpox and all that too. So I got the smallpox vaccine, which is
so you have to get a shot. What is it, 20 something stabs? And like I still have a scar.
It basically rots.
You guys probably can't see it.
It basically rots your arm and makes you immune to smallpox because you're going overseas. Everybody who goes overseas has to get this smallpox vaccine.
It's
eventually
a 3-week process, sometimes more.
But here I am. I've already got this vaccine, and I'm a holdover at this point. And then the drill sergeants were like, "Hey, I think we made a mistake. You are actually going to Fort Bragg." And I was like, you know, I was dumbfounded. I was extremely happy, but at the same time, I was already, you know, counting my chickens. I'm going to South Korea. I've already made my mind to think like that, and then all of a sudden they dropped this bomb on me, and they're like, "You're going to airborne school," and I was like, "Okay, my life just changed again." You know? So,
yeah. And folks, when you think about anybody in the military, when they talk about Korea, they don't talk about it being a good time. I'll let you know that right now. You don't get a lot of good time stories, and as 18 and 20-year-old kids who've never been exposed to the world, we definitely don't think that Korea can be a good time. So just know, like, if you're somebody who's been to Asia, and like we've now both been to Korea, Graz didn't have the same experience I did, but which who knows if we'll talk about that. But he came in COVID, so it was a little rough. But it's an amazing country. It's a great country, great people. It's beautiful. There's a lot to do. There's great food. I would go back and visit really if I wanted to. Anyways, so then we get airborne slotted. We go to airborne school. Airborne school, way easier than we thought.
Yeah,
very simple.
Much harder.
Nothing like crazy happened in airborne school that I really remember. We did basic stuff. Went to the movie theater. Did some golfing.
Well, a couple of our buddies got fortitude, and they changed their trajectory.
Dunn and Duncan, or just Duncan. Duncan and Jenkins.
Somebody. There was two of them that got fortitude, which means failure of airborne school. Right? You have to hit over 42 push-ups, and sometimes you come in with a class of 450. They have a mandatory cut that they have to hit, like a quota, and they 42 you, and that means, hey, you're a failure, and now they're changing your assignment, and you're no longer going to be airborne.
And you go to needs of the Army, which you don't get to choose. So you went from going to Fort Bragg, which the 82nd Airborne Division, which we all think, and I still hold pretty true. It's one of the best places you can go as a young soldier in the Army. It is what we would call high speed, so everything is very well done. It's very tactical. The leaders are usually at a pretty high level. You get very good missions, including combat missions, all these types of things. You jump out of airplanes. It's freaking cool, you know. There is a bravado to being in the 82nd Airborne, and so then these guys get needs of the Army, and I think one of them did go to Korea. And so needs of the Army means that you just go wherever they need you. So whatever the slots look like, if you're an E3 and they need E3s in Fort Bliss, Texas, you're going to Fort Bliss, like whatever you show up on the list, you know, and that's what it was. So those guys get 42'd, and then jumping, folks, to know about airborne school, it's scary, but eventually you just want to get out of the plane is the best way to explain it. Like even if you're scared of heights, JR was terrified the entire time.
Red as a cherry tomato. That's his first jump. Red as a cherry tomato. That's the only way I could describe his face.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
And I was second jumper on my first jump, which second jumper's pretty cool. It's pretty scary though, because you look out. If you're like 10 back in the pack, folks, you can't really see out the door, so you're not seeing. You know, the plane's moving at 200 something miles an hour. I don't know. And but first jumper literally goes into the doorway at 30 seconds, and you're looking just at the ground passing by for 30 seconds. Second guy is like right there, ready to go. But the great thing about being second is the jump master has full control of your static line, which is the scariest thing they tell you about in airborne school. This thing can wrap around your neck and pop your head off and get around your arm and tear your bicep off. It'll tear your limbs off, they tell you, you know?
Yeah, I've seen it.
That thing scared the crap out of me every single jump, every time.
I've seen people get their whole bicep messed up from static line.
It takes their bicep, pulls it straight down into the wrist. It is not a good thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but anyways, that was cool for me because like you're able to see out the door, you know, and it's just a step and a turn, you know, and you're done. Once you get to your unit and start jumping, it's absolutely miserable. It is 60-pound rucksacks to 80-pound rucksacks hanging between your legs with what? How do you think shoot is? What, 30 pounds, 40 pounds probably?
It's a lot of weight altogether. Altogether, you're probably carrying 100 pounds out the door.
Maybe with the weapon could be more depending on what you're carrying. Yeah, and your spine is compressed. You're sweating. It's rough, folks. I'm telling you right now, it ain't what it's chalked up to be, son.
No, I loved it while I was there.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'd do that again.
Not combat. I would jump like, you know.
Hollywood.
Yeah, Hollywood.
Which means just the pack on the back.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, we get through there, and then we get assigned our units, and I go to the 82nd Airborne. Me and I think maybe Dunn and Hall, and then Graz and Fannin go to 102nd. Sapper Company. Yep. Nobody's heard of this thing. They're connected to 27th Engineer Brigade that nobody knows anything about. They are on the complete opposite side of post, and it's like Graz went back to the trailer park of Fort Bragg.
100%. The barracks, they should have been condemned. There's mold in the barracks. You share a room with luckily I shared it with Fannin, so we just put all of our dressers in the middle to separate us so we can, change and do that thing.
A little bit of privacy.
Yeah, that corner of Fort Bragg is totally different than the 82nd.
Yeah, they come over to my side. It is walking into something like I wouldn't say a hotel, but you have a full common area that has like, your kitchen-ish, like a little oven, a stovetop, and then a fridge, a common shared bathroom, and then 2 separate rooms with 2 separate doors. Okay. Whereas in JR and Graz's room, it is just open. Everything's open. Everything's out there, and there's 2 beds slapped in there. There's 2 wall lockers, and that's like my bedroom has dressers and nightstands and this and that. You guys don't have any of this stuff.
Very different atmosphere. I walk in, get to this unit. They're returning from Afghanistan where they lost some people. Very, very weird and uncomfortable feeling being the new guy in a deployed unit that just came back and lost people. Very, very different world we were living in there. So.
Yeah, but at the 102nd, you found motivation in trying to go to Ranger School. So let's talk through how you even got that idea, like once you got there, and then how you pursued it, and then how you got in.
Yeah, so I was a PV2 at the time, E2, private, not even private first class yet. I kind of got voluntold to run a battalion race, and I haven't expressed anything about Ranger School, Sapper School, or any of my intentions. I was the new guy, I was quiet. So I was like, they strictly went off of run times on our PT score, and they're like, you're gonna run, you're gonna run, you're gonna run. There was like 3 of us from our company. We're competing against other companies within the battalion. So there's a total of probably 20 runners in a battalion level 2-mile run. And so I get in it. Long story short, I won. I ran a really fast time. I think I was in the 10s again. My first sergeant thought I cheated.
Yeah, and a battalion, I mean, we're talking, a battalion has about 3,000 soldiers in it.
Yep.
And everybody's sending their best from their unit to run in this race.
Sending the best of the best, the fastest. There's extremely fast people out there. Ended up winning it, which afforded me the opportunity. My first sergeant comes up to me and says, hey, we have to send 1 to pre-ranger course. It was like a quota. Every company needs to provide 1 to go to pre-ranger course there at Fort Bragg. And I was like, hey, sure, I want to do this. And there's no perfect time. It was December. I was out there for my birthday. I went through pre-ranger course, which is supposed to simulate the first phase of Ranger School in Fort Benning, Georgia. So it was approximately a 21 to 28 day course. I don't recall 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but they took us to a little camp out there deep in Fort Bragg. And I went through this course, and a lot of people fail. They make pre-ranger course harder than RAP week at Ranger School, and a very intense program that they run at Fort Bragg. Well, I ended up passing. And then the day that I graduated pre-ranger course, no one was there to pick me up. So here I am. I'm the last person. Everybody gets picked up by their unit. I am the last person there, and I have to call my leadership. So I called my first sergeant at the time, and I was like, hey, first sergeant, I'm here, pre-ranger school. I passed. I made it. And he's like, wow, where's your leadership at? And I was like, I have no idea. Turns out they totally forgot about me there. Nobody was even tracking that my graduation was that day. So that's when the wheels started spinning. My first sergeant took it upon himself to ensure that since I graduated pre-ranger course, I don't think they had any intention of me going to ranger school at the time until this happened. And luckily it did happen because my first sergeant hand walked my packet, him and another NCO. It was Staff Sergeant Cassio at the time. Took care of me, put in my packet, said, hey, you're going to ranger school January 2nd. So, I mean, I have like a week turnaround time to do Christmas, and then I'm going to ranger school.
Yeah.
So pretty intense. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. All I knew is, hey, this is the gut check I was looking for, and this is really what I wanted to do. Yeah. I wanted to challenge myself again, and I think this was my opportunity to do that.
And just saying yes to opportunity, right? You were just getting opportunities to the race, then to the pre-ranger course, then to the ranger leader course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you can get off. So folks, to know anything about ranger leader course, it's a highly tactical infantry-based maneuver school with mountaineering operations, ambush and raid operations, multiple different squad tasks. It's just there's a lot to explain.
Yeah, they've changed up. They've changed up a lot throughout the years.
Yeah.
But how I would summarize it is it's the premier leadership school in the Army, where your lead soldiers in adverse weather conditions, without sleep and without food, and then you're going to become a master of small unit tactics. That's how I would sum it up.
Do you still know the Ranger Creed?
No, absolutely not. I didn't know the Ranger Creed when I first went, and I had to learn it really fast, because if you don't know the Ranger Creed, you're really gonna. Well, for one, they could kick you out.
Yeah.
For two, you're really gonna screw everybody over, because it's more of like a team environment. It's definitely not an individual course at all.
When I'm talking about the Ranger Creed, any school you go to will have a creed. It's just a multi-paragraph motivational speech of sorts. You know, the Ranger one, I honestly think is the longest. And there's 6 paragraphs. One starts with R. Yeah. The first word starts with R-A-N-G-E-R. Yep. Super long, but you have to learn this stuff, folks. And then they're going to make the whole class say it. The Ranger instructors will walk up and down. So if you're not saying it, what Graz is saying, like you're kind of just being fake about it or not saying it, not yelling it loud enough, they'll just start smoking the entire class. Yep. And this makes everybody's life worse. So then Ranger School, you get to Ranger. Rap Week is a lot of what you're talking about, the small unit tactics, right? You're working through PT, stuff like that, physical examinations. And then you move into the mountains phase, which is talking about rucking and operations, right? Patrolling operations.
Yeah, so first phase, small unit tactics, squad level. It's in Fort Benning, Georgia. Camp Rogers is what they call it. And then from there you move to Dahlonega, Georgia, up in the mountains, where mountain phase is, where you go into more platoon-based tactics at that time. Now I think they switch it now. But at that time, those platoon-based tactics, they're integrating you into platoons. You're doing a lot of mountaineering operations. That's where you're learning how to tie knots for mountaineering, rappel off cliffs, that kind of thing in Ranger School. Very, very demanding phase. 21 days in the mountains.
They say mountains phase is the hardest.
Yes.
Yeah.
The mountains don't care how fit you are.
And I recently saw Graz out there. So if you guys are ultra marathon runners, anybody that's run Cruel Jewel, Georgia Jewel, or the Georgia Death Race, all run straight through what he's talking about, Dahlonega, Georgia. You guys might know it as like Skeena Gap or Winding Stair is like some of the sections of at least Georgia Death Race, and that run through this section. And me and Eric, when we were out there, we saw the Rangers. You could hear them, right, with the weapons and stuff like that. And Eric's like, "Is that a machine gun?" I'm like, "Yes, that's a machine gun," you know. And then they were rucking down, and hey, they were in rough shape. You know, they're up and down hills all day, every day, with 60 to 80-pound rucksacks, multiple days with little sleep, little food.
It's rough out there.
Yeah.
It was in the winter as well too. Like I said, I started first phase in January 2nd, so by that time it was February in the mountains. That's a whole different atmosphere to be in than the summer. So.
Yeah. And so with Ranger School, then there's the Florida phase, which is like the same type of thing, but platoon size, or is it?
Yeah, it's definitely your platoon patrols.
But in swamps, essentially.
In swamps.
Yeah. So you're getting different environments as you go through Ranger School. No recycles for you, correct?
Correct. No recycles. 62 days straight through.
Yeah. So you can recycle each phase one time.
You can. For that specific reason, you can recycle the phase more than once. So say if you got peered that phase, you can recycle one time for peers. You can recycle for double no-go.
Okay,
you can recycle for land navigation, right? There's multiple things you can recycle for, but it is not just one time. There's people who've been there when I went through for like 7-8 months.
Yeah, so, we all know people that have been through for a long time. Graz, no, and this is really hard to do as a private, to go through 62 days straight. You essentially have no operational knowledge at all, almost. So everything you learned there, it's just learn, apply, execute.
Yeah, honestly, coming in as a private, I was a little nervous, but it's honestly an advantage coming in as a private because you don't know what things are supposed to be like. So you're just soaking up like a sponge. You're soaking up all the knowledge you can get, and you have no baseline to compare it to, right? Other people who have been doing things this way all of their life, they come in and they may have some pushback to the way things are being taught at Ranger School, and they fall back to their instincts of what they already know, and that could hurt them.
Yeah, resort back to bad habits, like something like, some people talk about this with like hunting. People talk about this with tons of things, hunting or whatever. Like you want to get in it with somebody that's an expert to start with a completely fresh slate, so that you don't come in with maybe bad habits that you form trying to learn something on your own.
Right, and I will say there's no advantage of going straight through because there's no downtime. Your body's not recovering. If you recycle, you'll get a grace period of like a week to recover, eat, go back at it.
Yeah.
62 days, you're running on the least amount of calories, least amount of sleep, and you're just trying to push through to get to the next phase. So it's really not a great advantage going straight through. I'm glad I did though, because I was ready to get this done and move on to the next task.
Yeah, and so Graz got his Ranger tab. This was huge for all of us that knew him. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. It's a really hard course. I never earned mine. I never went to the course. And many people don't. Many people won't. They won't even try. So to go through as a private, to make it with no knowledge, it was really cool for us. You get back. You lost some weight, and then you immediately threw it back on and got what they call the Ranger belly.
Oh, yeah. I lost 25 pounds in Ranger school.
In 2 months. Folks.
Came back, and then I ate too much, and your body can't process all the food correctly. So, yeah, your belly, like, protrudes from your body. And I immediately got that, and it was very tough to get it back down.
Well, and you had that back issue where you were getting stuck in bed.
Oh, yeah. So, at this point, I don't know if it was Ranger school or later on after Sabre school, but around that time I started getting back issues. This is where my back issues started. Mm-hmm. I would just get a simple tweak on like a deadlift or something silly, like tying my shoes, and then I would have a very hard time getting up out of bed.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I remember a certain story, but we'll keep it.
Took me a while to recover.
Yeah. So you go through Ranger school, come back, you're the golden boy of the unit, right? And then your unit comes over and meets up with us.
Yeah,
right in that time, I think.
Yeah, so 102nd Sapper Company at the time of my graduation of Ranger School, they cased their colors and moved over and formed the 307th and third.
Right, because we were 3rd BSTB, Brigade Support. I don't know.
Training Battalion.
Maybe.
Support Training Battalion.
Yeah, maybe. And then we transferred to a BEB, a Brigade Engineer Battalion.
This is when, Brigade Engineer Battalion.
I was in Alpha Company. Graz and his company were Bravo Company, which this was one of the best rivalries, really the only rivalry I ever saw between companies in the Army. And folks, it was brutal. I'm talking about people, we got along well when it was like, together in the barracks hanging out. But when it came to company level competitions, it was cutthroat. I remember we were doing this competition called Crossing the Wall, where
Wall River Crossing.
Yeah, the Wall River Crossing. So it's based off of World War II, where in World War II, the engineers would get in boats and they would transfer each other over to the other side of the Wall River, I believe in Germany.
It's in Germany.
Yeah, and then come back, and they were like literally paddling with their weapons, with their helmets, like getting murdered. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. And they did, I think, 5 back and forths to get everybody over. So every year in the 307th, we would commemorate this by carrying every company, which Alpha Company, Bravo Company, and then all the other guys are like Signal, Intel, MPs, like they're never going to beat us. It's either going to be Alpha or Bravo. Like that's just what it is. Yeah. And we're the engineer companies. But you carry your boats, about a 3-mile boat run, carrying these boats. They're Zodiacs. I forget their weight, but it's in the hundreds of pounds, maybe 700, maybe 800 pounds.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
It's very heavy. You're going to have 8 people on this boat at any given time, 4 on each side. You carry it down about 3 miles to the place where we're going to launch the boats, and then your team for your company is going to get into a rowing competition. And on the way down, we're in the front because we're Alpha Company, but in front of us is like headquarters, which is like your brigade command sergeant major, like high-ranking people that are very important. You act professional around these people whenever they come into a building. Like you don't mess around these people. You're on your P's and Q's, and so there's so much competition. So in the back, we're all talking crap to Bravo Company because they're behind us. Essentially, we're doing cadences that disrespect each other. Like this is just how the Army is. If you guys don't do this anymore in the Army, I feel bad for you because it was so much fun. Yeah. Anyways, at one point, Bravo Company, I don't know who manned this, but decides they're going to try to pass us by running faster. Yeah. This is unheard of, and we shouldn't have done this. But this caused legitimate fights
Yeah, it was a brawl. I would consider it a mosh pit of
Yes.
Army soldiers.
We're talking 60 or 70 people per company running with boats. The boats kept going, but everybody else like around supporting, because you're switching people in and out to keep people fresh, are fighting each other. They're tackling people. The battalion commander had to stop the formation 3 times, I believe, to yell at us all to stop fighting. We had people bleeding. We had people that could barely run anymore. I think somebody like separated their shoulder in my company. It was nuts.
It was nuts.
But
and
yeah.
People were trying to stab each other with guidons, which is the flag that you're carrying in front. People were tackling each other. It was pretty brutal.
It was awesome.
It was a whole different type of army back then compared to what it is now.
You're wrestling on the ground, just dog paddling. You don't even know if the people you're with are your people, And I think this was your company also wore face paint. So almost everybody in their company were face painted. So then after you got in the fight, everybody was covered in face paint because of like the mosh of just dog piling. I remember that specifically. Like everybody had some sort of like, face paint all over them. But yeah, that's just to say we got back close and our companies were rivals, and it was a good time.
Oh, it was great. I mean, going from 102nd to moving over to the 82nd, I would have to say, spend time in many units. I treasure those years of the 82nd Airborne. I don't know how they are now. Years back when we were there, from like 2014 to 16 time frame, those were the glory days.
They were the golden ages, man. So, anybody you talk to from that time will tell you the same thing. Even people that were ranked higher than us, ranked lower than us. I talk to guys that are SF now. They're still like, dude, those were some of the best times I ever had. Yeah. Anyways, so that's just to say, just a nice little story, because I forgot about that. But man,
it's nice to reminisce.
That was a good time. Yeah. And multiple competitions between our companies all the time, and it was back and forth. It was not one-sided in any way. That I remember Bravo Company being better, Alpha Company. I remember we'd win one, you guys would win one. And then all the time, and everybody had absolute monsters in their companies. It was done well, and they had great leaders. So then you get the opportunity to go to Sapper Leader course. How did that occur?
Yeah, so Ranger School, like I said, January of that year, 2014. Sapper Leader course, December of the same year. So it was both in the same year. We moved companies over there to the 82nd that same year. At that time, I was in the running for the Van Autreve Competition Engineer of the Year Award for Junior Enlisted, and there's one for Senior Enlisted. So Engineer of the Year Award. I ended up in that year. I ended up winning that, and that triggered. So my competitor, double tab Ranger Sapper guy, Ringrose, Staff Sergeant Ringrose, and I had a conversation. He's like, "Why haven't you been to Sapper School?" And I was like, "Well, at that time, I was promoted to corporal, so I went from private to private first class to go to Ranger School, and then as soon as I came back, I was made a corporal, which is essentially a non-commissioned officer without the non-commissioned officer authority
or pay,
right? So
there's
I was a
two
leader in the
ranks
formation.
At E4, so this is an E4, folks.
Yeah.
There's 2 different ranks. There's a specialist and there's a corporal. A corporal has leadership values and authority, technically.
Yeah, you're technically a team leader, and you're considered an NCO, but you're not getting the pay.
You're not getting the pay of the NCO. You're not really getting the same respect either. It's kind of like a stepchild rank. It has some sort of weird vibe to it where it's like, you're just a corporal. So if I was a specialist, I never got corporal. Specialist is like known as like the sham shield. Like these guys, like they don't do much. They make the privates do all the work. But if you just go straight from private to corporal, like you go straight from the bottom to you're in charge. Like you don't get like this phase of kind of chilling out. As a specialist, you kind of get a phase of chilling out a little bit.
Right, yeah. So young leader, get promoted to corporal, trying to figure it out, right? That same year, when the Van Autreve, me and Staff Sergeant Ringrose at the time, we had a conversation. He's asking why are you not Sapper Leader qualified? I said, well, at that time, E5s were considered the first time you can go to Sapper Leader course, right? Because it was a kind of a niche leadership school, and if I were to go, I would need a waiver. Right, so he talked to my first sergeant and said, "Hey, yeah, just put in a waiver." That's the same way he got it. And that day, my first sergeant puts in a waiver for me. I'm going to Sapper Leader course in December, again in the winter, same year. Kind of I was like, yep, I'll accept this opportunity as well. Extremely grateful. My leaders in my first unit, they set me up for success for my life, for my military career.
Yeah.
If I didn't do this in the same year, I probably wouldn't have done it. I probably wouldn't have went to both schools.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
You know, maybe not. I mean, we got caught up in Iraq later after that.
Right.
All kinds of stuff.
When we went to Iraq months after
so
you.
December 2000. Yeah. We can get after that. Yeah. So Sapper Leader course, December, 28 days. Graduated. January, February of the following year, 2015, we go to Iraq.
Right, so, like literally within probably 60 days of
pretty quick.
And were you just excited for Sapper School as you were for Ranger School?
Yeah, so as an engineer, you kind of want to get your leadership school.
Yeah, that's your school, yeah.
I've always grew up, everybody knows what a Ranger is. Everybody knows, they don't really realize that Ranger is separate than Ranger school. It's a leadership course. It doesn't mean you're a ranger with a scroll in a ranger battalion. Mm-hmm. It means, but rangers in a ranger battalion, they go to this leadership school to certify, and then they can move over into battalion. Right. But that's all you hear about as a kid. And then knowing that I was a combat engineer at the time, our premier leadership school was Sapper Leader Course. Right. So yes, this was, what do we call it? The carrot that we're always chasing. Right?
Yeah, it's the big deal. So, I know that whenever and this isn't the right thing to do if you're a young soldier, but I know that if I saw somebody with a Sapper tab, I had more respect for them than somebody that didn't. A Ranger tab as well, like in any tab, really. But I just always, I've always been a tab checker, man. Even from being a private, like I looked up, and I don't think it's because those people are smarter, stronger, faster, more able. I think that it's that they challenge themselves, and I know they challenge themselves. And most of the time, if I knew somebody that didn't have a tab, but they went to the course, I felt the same respect for somebody like that, because the course, any of these courses that we're speaking about can go either way for any of us, and some of it's luck, and there is, be prepared, do what you're supposed to do, but sometimes you can just be unlucky, and we know plenty of people that have been on either side of that, maybe lucky and maybe didn't deserve the tab compared to somebody else, but it just happens that way. It can be real subjective in certain things.
Yeah, I think I learned that at Ranger School before I went to Sapper School, is a tab on somebody's shoulder gets you in the room. As soon as you open your mouth, that's whenever people realize, hey, someone else helped you get that tab, or you've earned that tab. And I always, we go by the saying, a tab bearer and not a tab wearer, right? What you do after you obtain the little tab on your shoulder is what really is what the unit wants you to get after. The leadership skills that you possess from going to these schools and how you teach others is the real reason why you get to go to these leadership schools. You don't just get the tab and then selfishly keep that to yourself. But, yeah.
We know plenty of people that have them,
right.
And I just know when I got my tab, like that was the biggest, as soon as I got back, I was trying to flush as much information as I could into the soldiers, just because, this stuff is perishable. The skills will leave you eventually if you don't continue to practice them. So the best time, and this is going through anything, this should be after an ultra marathon, this could be after a marathon race, this could be after your big business venture, whatever it is. But once you become successful through the thing, the best thing you can do is take notes or spread the knowledge as quickly as you possibly can. And that's what you've always done well, and I think that I did pretty well as well. So this is a big deal. Graz gets both of these tabs with less than 2 years in the Army. And we're talking 2 years was January 3rd of 2013. And before January 3rd, 2015, you had 2 tabs.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is, it's hard to do logistically. As we just explained, all of these things that we went through, the guy had almost literally zero downtime between every course. So that's a big reason, like the Van Oxtruve Award, all these things. And then, we go to Iraq, which, I don't know. Iraq wasn't very exciting, folks. And I've said this on this podcast before. We aren't people that got in firefights. We aren't people that got blown up. We aren't, which, like I said, in the moment, we all wanted to be a part of that. And I'll ask you in a second, but I know we all wanted to be a part of something like that. And now I always look back and I'm grateful that I didn't have to lose some of my close friends in that manner. We both lost close friends in different manners, unfortunately. Still probably service connected. But how do you feel about your service? Because I know I always felt embarrassed a little bit that I didn't receive what's called a combat action badge edge, and that I didn't feel like I went to war. I'm just wondering like how you always felt, because we weren't in the same place in Iraq at any time. Graz was somewhere else, but similar experiences training Iraqi soldiers, pulling security in certain situations, things like this.
Yeah. So that's an outstanding question. And being young, being naive, I had the same feelings. I thought I wanted war. I thought I wanted to see it, and we were part of Build Partner Capacity. So in 2015, we were part of trying to liberate Mosul. That's what we were doing over there. You know, we were training Iraqi soldiers, like you just said. They were going in there doing their best, and then we'd train another brigade, and then they would go in there and try to do their best, and then eventually we liberated Mosul, right? So yes, I did want to see something at that time, but I think it really hit me whenever I came back from Iraq, 2016. I ended up leaving to go to college to become an officer at that time, and then we lost 2 soldiers because they went back to Afghanistan in 2016. Actually, one of the NCOs took the squad I would have been a squad leader in, and then so we lost 2 soldiers, and that's where I say I have a little bit of survivor's guilt, because I left my friends, the leaders there, selfishly to go pursue my own avenue and become an officer, and that kind of gets to me to this day. And I think at that point I realized that war is no joke, and then that's maybe something that you shouldn't wish for. So again, it's just a level of maturity. I matured a lot since then. When I was young, that's what you join the military for. That's what you train for. In the 82nd specifically, we're always ready to go doing exercises like we are in combat, as close as you can get. And then, folks, it's no joke. Losing people, it's no joke. It affects you both mentally, it physically, spiritually, it affects you in a different type of way. Even if you're not presently there, if you knew these people and they've passed away, your life is never the same. So
I mean, we know it too. We see it with suicide rates in combat veterans. 22 a day. Is absolutely insane to think about. And some of this too, I do have the same sort of guilt of being over there and not doing enough. But I know that just seeing a third world country had an impact on me, especially now. Like, I'm so grateful just because I knew how these people lived in the savagery that was going on literally in streets on a daily basis. I mean, to see people walk around city streets with AK-47, it's like, it's normal when you're there, but to remove myself now, it's like, could you imagine walking through Nashville and half the people are just carrying AK-47s? The type of anxiety that would just cause in general, and this is what these people are dealing with every day. These people could come into your home, take your things. They do that. The terrorists do. Like, these people are living in a manner that nobody in this country can even understand, you know?
Yeah, and honestly, I think that experience changed my life, and it made me extremely grateful for whenever I'm on this side of the world, and then gave me a total different perspective in life and how bad it could really get.
Yeah. So that's us like touching on Iraq. I just know that even when I came back, I wanted to be able to like fabricate stories to say I did something, and at times I think that I would drink back when I drank, and I would like fabricate like, oh, we took some pop shots. We didn't take any pop shots. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, we almost got in a firefight, and you just want to feel cool, and accepted like everybody else that actually did something. And now I'm really proud to just say like, I didn't see anything really, and I'm happy, we went to the IDF bunkers a couple times for indirect fire, things like that. But, it's just, grateful now. But yeah, we get through Iraq, come back in 2015. And then, like I said, Graz goes on. So you decide to get out, go to what's called Green to Gold. You're going to transfer from being a sergeant in the Army to a lieutenant. Why are you doing this, and how'd it go?
Really? I had decided that I was going to get out. So I threw my name in the hat for this scholarship because my lieutenant told me about it, and he said I would be a good candidate for it. So I put in a packet for it, and at the same time, I had a game plan to get out of the Army. I wanted to pursue a different route. Honestly, I think at this time, another immature decision, I didn't see combat. And I didn't foresee seeing combat in the future. And I think that is what led me to that decision where I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get out. I am training, I'm working insane amount of hours, not getting treated the best, because we don't get, our cake and eat it too in the military.
Yeah.
But at that time, I put it in the packet, and at the same time, I was exiting the door. Well, it turns out, I don't know why, but my packet got accepted. I was granted the Green to Gold Hip Pocket Scholarship, which means, yes, you're exiting the Army, but that same day that you get your DD 214 and you're done with the Army, you commission back into an ROTC program, and you are now doing PT still while you're going to college, waiting to commission and become an officer in the Army.
Right.
So
yeah, same as Jess LaHost that was
Right.
on. She just went through the same thing, and she's just now second lieutenant. Yeah. So and this is funny too, folks. Graz leaves. Well, I think I left first. I don't know how that went. Who left first?
I think we left around the
really
same
close.
time.
I
'cause
left
you
in
went
May
to
2016.
Fort Carson, correct?
Fort Carson, Colorado. Yeah. And Graz was there either a month before me or within months after me. So
Right.
and not planned at all.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
was
kind of
crazy
how it went. Yeah. And then you're going to school. I'm in the Army still. You meet your wife over there. You have Maddox while
Yep.
you're over there in the first about 2 years or so. I'm doing regular Army things. I get a DUI there at some point. Good night, son. But but we weren't close then, really. Like, we saw each other scarcely. I think I was doing my own thing. I was partying quite a bit. You were starting to settle down. You were swamped with school and work. I remember that too.
I think what happened is I kind of always just followed you around. You went to Fort Carson.
Yeah.
I went to University of Colorado Springs. So we were in Colorado Springs
Same
together.
town.
He was in the Army doing his thing, different schedule. I ended up, I would say within 4 months of me being in Colorado Springs, baby's on the way. So immediately, at that point we were extremely close, and we started drifting apart because we were going two different paths. I'm over here trying to do college, work, do all this other stuff. You're focusing on the Army and then, your goals in life.
Yeah.
So at that point, we kind of separated for a little bit. We still did some challenging things like the incline and
we
Pikes
go on
Peak.
some hikes and stuff,
and we stayed connected in that way, but definitely not as close as we used to be at that point, those couple of years in Colorado Springs.
Yeah.
So.
I went to Sapper School at some point in there. You were doing the school thing. I go to Korea. You come to Korea. Your dad passes away.
Yep.
Which was tough. I remember I was being there for you as best that I could. Because at that time, Graz's dad, he has to leave. The Army gives him a certain amount of days to be with his father while. Well, you could tell. Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about this? All right.
Only if you want to. No, we don't have to.
No, yeah, I do want to talk about this. This is a pivotal moment in my life if we're talking about like what made me what I am today.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I commissioned as an officer, go to Fort Riley, Kansas. 2 months after I get to Fort Riley, we go on what they call a operational, like a rotational deployment. So it's Korea, 9 months, and it was during COVID-19 as well. So I get over there. He's stationed at Camp Humphreys. He's over there in Korea as well. I get the call. My dad's on hospice. I come back. I spend the week with him. The Army says you can stay no longer. You're coming back to Korea. So I have to look at my dad in the bed on hospice, getting morphine at the time, and that was single-handedly the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
And for people that don't know, like, I don't want you to have to say too much, but Graz's dad is his hero, and it's hard for me even because I just know, how tough this was for you. So anybody that has a family member that's, somebody that's been there your whole life, that's your biggest fan, that you've looked up to, is weak, in their lowest moment of weakness. And I just know that this was a big point for you where the Army wasn't taking care of your mental health at this time, and just in the way of, I just need maybe a couple more days, and it wasn't going to happen.
Right, yeah. So at that time, I was in a leadership position. I was a platoon leader. I was in charge of 28 soldiers at the time. I was solely in charge, and then me and my platoon sergeant. So I got to go. I see my dad in hospice. He's still alive. I asked to stay so I can make sure that I was there for the funeral. We have all these COVID-19 stipulations with travel. Everybody knows travel was very difficult during this time. Military says, no, you're coming back to Korea. So I say my goodbyes to my dad. My dad was my hero. Reason being, he was also an alcoholic growing up. He has done very bad things in his life. He was abusive at one point, and then the last 10 years of being with him while I was in the Army, he made a change. He stopped drinking completely. He just did a full 180 and didn't walk that direction anymore. And I was extremely proud of him, and for that, it really did resonate with me that he was trying to be better for his family. So I can respect that, and then my love for him grew even more. He was already my hero. Just to put it in perspective, it amplified by 10 whenever he stopped drinking, quit his bad habits. I can actually have a conversation with him. He would give me advice. They say, the only man that wants you to be better than themselves is your father, right? Mm-hmm. No other dude wants you to be better than them. And that's the truth, folks. Like your dad, right? So I say my goodbyes knowing that's the last time I'm going to see him. And I get on a plane, long flight to Korea. I get off the plane, and they immediately stick me into quarantine, which is absolutely not great for your mental health. The step off the plane, I get the call, your dad passed away. And at that moment, I was just broken. I probably hit one of my lowest points in life at that point. They stick me into quarantine. As soon as I go into quarantine, I knew Led was there. I knew he was in Korea. I gave him a call because I was at Camp Humphreys. And I said, hey, man, they're sticking me in a white room with nothing. You didn't have anything. No TV. No. They would bring your food and slide it under the door kind of thing, like you were in prison. And I had to have someone to talk to. And thankfully, I knew Led was there. And he kind of just took care of me. He brought me the essentials. I think y'all baked me some cookies, and you brought me some cookies. We talked through the door. I cried a lot. He cried a lot. I really didn't know where to go out with my life, but I think that moment is whenever we became close again. Yeah. That was where, we were back together, and it's like we didn't skip a beat from. Yeah,
and it's always been like that. The quarantine situation in Korea, they did a great job in reality, like in the country, because our stuff wasn't really shut down like you guys might have seen here in the States. But every soldier that came over, we're talking thousands, was put into a 10 by 10 room, 4 people per room for 14 days. And you got, or maybe it's 10 days, I don't know what it was, something like that, 10 or 14 days. Yes. Irrelevant. And you got to go outside 1 hour a day. I mean, it was literally like prison, solitary
Yeah, I think you get to
confinement.
walk in a quad with, boundaries.
No. And I was working these, I had full freedom, but I was working these barracks, and so I was on shifts, with my soldiers doing this kind of stuff. But so that was Korea, pretty much. And then we both come back from Korea. You're here, and I came here as well. But then you shortly moved. You moved to Fort Knox. But I don't know if there's anything in there between really 2021 and 6 months ago.
Yeah. So I came here. You were stationed at Fort Campbell. I followed you again. Yeah. He's always been there first, and I kind of just gravitated to where he was at. So
not on purpose. It just happened.
Fort Carson, Korea. Now we're here. He's at Fort Campbell. I came here as well. Stayed here for 18 months. Then I had to do some additional institutionalized training, Captain Career Course. So I had to go to Missouri for 6 months. And then from Missouri, I went to Kentucky, Fort Knox, where I would finish out my career. And from there, I always try to get back here to Clarksville, close to you. So,
yeah, we talked a little bit. I mean, we really started talking a lot the last year or so, and I don't really know why or how we started talking again, but we started talking a lot of faith stuff. I didn't even know you were sober until just a few months ago. Yeah. And because I was sharing a bunch of my stuff, of course, and you were super supportive the whole way along, and we would talk about things, and and I talked about this in the Cook It Under recap, but it's one of the big reasons that when I talked to Graz on the phone at mile 160 or whatever, I was emotional because Graz, as you guys have told, has seen me through every phase of my adult life, and literally because 18 all the way until right now. Right. So has known the different phases of what I've went through, through being literally an 18-year-old into partying a lot and hanging out with people and just being part of the in crowd to getting a DUI to then coming here to then getting out of the Army. And I was in a pretty bad, I don't even think I talked to many people in those couple of years I was out,
Yeah.
like anybody. Bad spot then. And then you came back, and it's like, you know, what I'm trying to say is he had seen every piece of me. So when we spoke on the phone and he told me he was proud of me, it was a big moment for me because he was one of the few people that had seen the entire road of progression. And then I'd seen the same of his. So because once he got here, you know, leading up to Cocodona, he really wanted to be there too. It just didn't work out with his new job. But that's when we're our closest right now, I would say 100%.
Yeah.
But we shared a ton of stories about faith and sobriety and leaned on each other with some vulnerabilities. And so it was like, you know, we were proud of each other, you know, and so it was just something that I know made me emotional out there.
Yeah, I think the thing about all this is, yes, I have seen every phase of your adult life, but I was living it with you, right? I was doing the same things you were doing. You know, I didn't get a DUI, but there's probably many times I could have, right?
Yeah.
I was drinking, I was partying, I was doing the things I shouldn't have been doing. I was hurting a lot of people along the way. I was very selfish. At that time, you know, I said I had faith, but I was actually doing it incorrectly. You know, every time I prayed, I asked for something. Now I view it differently, but at that time, every time I prayed, I would ask for something. When I would hit the lowest point in my life, I would ask for something, right? And then thinking back now and knowing what I know now and having you as kind of like a mentor, and you know, I'm still learning and evolving with you. It's a very I'm extremely grateful to have a person like you that I can now look at and saying, this is what I want to be like, right? It hasn't always been that way. I haven't always wanted to be like you. But recently, through his change, through his, you know, your physical, your spiritual, your emotional journey, and then your faith and you know, professing, you know, your love for the Lord and your like profound impact to others. That's what I want to be like, folks. And I haven't always felt that way, but I do now, and I think that's why we're the closest. And I think living, you know, the bad side of adult life, you know, there's two roads. We were on the wrong road for a while, and I think you got on the right road first, and I think that helped me get on the right road. So.
Yeah. And this isn't to say that anybody's perfect, especially not myself, you know, and we're going to make mistakes. But, you know, now we're in situations where we lean on each other, like in those mistakes. We know we can go to the Word. We know we can ask each other, you know, what would you do in this situation? What would you not? But, yeah, it's been, and I've seen every phase of your life, you know, and we still talk all the time. And it's just, it's been great. And now we're getting into ultra running together. You know, obviously I started doing that a few years ago. You just ran your first 50 miler. Like, what? I know that the reason you got into it is because I'm doing it, because I just know I didn't know anything about it until like I was reading books and found it. And then obviously, you know, we talked about it a little bit. You've been a good runner. Ran your first 50 miler. What draws you to it? Like, how close do you think this is to the challenges in the Army?
Yeah, I would say, you know, first I was interested in ultra running and what you were doing because I was following you, and I also have been battling injuries and I've gained weight, and I wanted, you know, a way to get healthier, and I wanted to be a better example for my kid, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit. So I wanted to be a better father, you know, and example for my kid, and I kind of seen what you were doing, and I wanted to try it out, man. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to do something challenging. I knew that, you know, at that point I had never even ran over 12 miles because that was a ruck march in the Army. As far as ultra running being relatable to the Army, it's extremely relatable, right? And I wouldn't always say, you know, Army is physically demanding as ultra running could be, but the mindset is the same. You know, anybody who spends weeks up in the mountains at their lowest point in life can lean on those experiences in ultra running whenever, you know, times get tough.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, talking about, you know, being an example for your kids. It was so cool the other day. We went on an 8-mile run, and Graz's son Maddox, he's 8.
He's 8.
Yeah, he's 8 years old as well, and rode his bike 8 miles. I mean, no problem, folks, no problem. And so seeing that, it was like, and you told me while we were out there, it's having your built-in best friend. So being a father and in ultra running and everything you've done, like how does being a father motivate you in everyday life?
Honestly, I've always wondered my purpose. And then whenever I had Maddox, I think I realized my purpose in life may not be for myself, right? It's more of being like the same thing you are to a lot of folks, is being a role model for my children, showing them what's right. Hey, maybe, changing the norms in life. Like, hey, you drinking at a party, cool. I'm not downplaying anybody that drinks at a party and they think that's cool and that's what they do. But for me, I don't want my children to think that's the norm. I want them to be afforded the opportunity to either do that or not do that and not feel any type of way. I want them to make that decision on their own. I don't want them to make that decision based off of what their dad did in life,
Yeah, I see it a lot. And I've said the same thing, people ask, maybe ask a question like, why do you stay sober? And I always think about my 7-year-old nephew. I don't think about myself, because at this point I don't even think about drinking. I don't even think about it being so good for my health or not, because it's just something I do. It's not even a thought anymore.
Right.
But I think about my 7-year-old nephew, and when he grows up, he's been exposed to alcohol quite a bit, and just like the rest of us have, and everybody else will be most likely, unless we see a crazy world change, which maybe I'm hoping for, maybe I'm not. But I want him to have somebody to ask the question to, Uncle Dylan, why don't you drink? Because I know I didn't have anybody that, when I was a kid, there was nobody in my family that if we went to a barbecue, everybody drank a beer. Everybody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so what I realized just recently, a year or two ago, is like Chase now has somebody that he can ask that question to if he wants to. It's no way, like you're saying, I'm not trying to force somebody into this is the right way, because that's not true. People can have a good relationship with alcohol and this and that. I don't know if I can say alcohol's done good things. I don't know. I don't think I can say that. But that's a huge reason I stay sober, and why I speak about my sobriety and why I make it known is like I want people that don't know anything about it to be able to ask questions.
Yeah, how I think about it, and I always go back to this. If, drinking, if you drink too much and your kid gets hurt, who's driving them to the hospital, right? Are you calling the ambulance, or are you going to be able to drive drunk to the hospital? And whenever I think about those type of things, a lot of things go through my mind, right? No, I don't want to be the person to have to call the ambulance or call someone else to take my kid. I want to take responsibility for my kid. And that means, limiting yourself if you do drink and or not drinking at all, and being completely sober and in the moment. And if an accident happens, I'll be the person who's responsible for my children and could successfully, get them the help they need.
Yeah, and even to go with that, I mean, now too, I like to know that anybody could call me at any time and I could come get you, no matter where you are. And I haven't 100%. Always been that way. My roommate that lived here, one of my best friends, he used to go to the bar every Friday and Saturday. I think even Thursdays. And it's not far from here. It's about 8 minutes away. And I would tell him every time before he left, and I wasn't sober yet, but I just wasn't drinking during the week because I had work and stuff. But I always tell him to call me if he needed a ride. He never called me. And one night he crashed his motorcycle drunk and he died, And so think about that now. And just a few months ago, my sister was drinking and she called me and it was late and she was across town, but I could drive and she knew I could drive. And so for people around me to know if I need a ride or hanging out with people, they always have a designated driver if I'm around, and I'm completely okay with being that person. It means that the safety of others is maximized because I'm not drinking alcohol. 100%. So these are just different ways that I think about it and reasons to stay sober or get sober. If you're in a group of people and you guys are fighting to be the designated driver, if you want to buck up and be sober, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So ultra running, we got Mid-State Mile coming up.
Yeah.
And this has been on Graz's radar since January when really for 3 years, because I've been doing it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've always invited him, come do this, come do Tennessee Mile, and it never really worked out for us. This year, you got in. I didn't really have to pull some strings, but maybe I did pull some strings and got you in. You might have got in anyways, but you were on the button pretty quick. But you get into Mid-State Mile. It's one of the hardest ultra marathons, I think, especially for a 1 mile loop in the area. It's 1.1 mile loop, 350 feet elevation gain and loss in the loop. You have 20 minutes to complete the loop. it's last man standing format, so you restart every 20 minutes. You either go until you quit or you are the last one. So there's no known destination or time for the race to end. You go until you pretty much are the last one, or like I said, you quit. So what's the draw to a race like that?
Yeah, I first of all, I just want to say thank you to the race directors, Becca, John, for getting me in off that wait list. I had to have clicked the button within 2 seconds of it opening, but I had some insider information saying, hey, be on there, be ready, or you're not getting in. And I think it gradually just became more popular over the couple of years that I've watched you. And, I just want to say, if they do watch this podcast, I just want to say thank you. Extremely grateful for the opportunity. You won't regret it. I will find what I'm looking for out there. As far as why the draw, is that the question? Why the draw?
Yeah, well, why? Yeah, why this race? Like, what excites you? Like, why? And then what excites you about it?
Yeah, so this is my golden nugget. I did run that 50-miler ultra.
In April, yeah.
Yeah, just because I was in a training block, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to test that training block and my fitness. It's been a while. I battled a couple injuries along the way. I wanted to test myself to see where I was at. Surprisingly, I ran decent and
took third place.
Right. I knew that I could finish it. My family, not so much. They were worried about me and my health. But I think whenever I set my mind to something, I'm going to get it done regardless if I'm crawling across the finish line, right? So I have been watching you for many years, and I see how you have just changed as a person each time, right? Each race, each time, Tennessee Mile as well, you just take a little bit from the race and you incorporate that in your life, whether it's be a struggle, how you navigate life, maybe get closer to God along the way. I just want to challenge myself once again and find something that I'm missing currently in my life, right? I have lived a successful life. I have 2 awesome kids. I have a wife. I'm living a great life. I have a great job. I'm just looking for something else in life to grow and take back and change me as well. So you've provided that information. You say, hey man, you should do this. It's changed my life. I'm like, yep. You don't have to tell me twice. I want to do this race. I want to run as far as I can. I want to push myself to the breaking point because I don't think personally I've ever been to that. I've probably been close a couple times, but I don't know what the threshold is for me. And I guess we're going to find out here
that is
a week.
I forgot about that. You've never really quit anything, a competition,
which is scary.
Because there's always been set distance, which doesn't mean you can't win, and then you still don't get it.
Right.
Which would be crazy.
I think another one of these things with the Mid-State is a very challenging course, and I only know that through research, through my friends that tell me the course. There's a lot of unknowns, and this is the first time I've ever kind of been a little scared of something, right? Yeah. I've been scared of a couple of things in life, like the first time I went to Ranger School. Super nervous, young, scared. I like that feeling. I live in that moment, and if I feel like a little bit of fear, I think that's a good thing for me. I always find a new level to go to whenever I feel that way.
And you got a little bit of the ultra running experience at the Snake Tail where you found kind of a low, right? You got into a low. And then you got out of the low, which is great, especially for your first race, because a lot of people, you kind of get stuck in that low. People will quit. People will walk it out. But you did show a lot of resilience already. And like you said, probably calling back to the Ranger Leader course, the Sapper Leader course, the things that we'd been through in the military. And so how was that feeling? And was that kind of something that you're like, okay, like I like that?
Yeah, so I knew I was going to hit a low in the race because I haven't ran that mileage before. And I'm pretty sure I hit it around like mile anywhere from 22 to 26. It's right after that marathon. Hey, I achieved that. It was after a marathon, 26, 28 mileage. Hit the marathon. I was like, cool. I ran my first marathon. I've never ran a marathon before. And then that next 2 miles, I think that's where it really hit me. It was like, okay, I have another one of those to go because this race was longer than 50. I think it was like
about 52 and
52, 53. Yeah. So
because it was about a half marathon per loop, 4 loops, and this was some pretty, almost all single track trail with some serious like trudging through some mud with, what was it? Was it 14 creek crossings per loop? So
Yes.
extremely wet, and some hills. I think you got about 7,000 feet of gain total on it. So this wasn't like a marathon. This wasn't a 50-miler on road. This
Right.
was something serious, and you'd only ever, moved 12 miles straight before.
Well, I think I underestimated the course. Absolutely. I don't think it was the most challenging course out there by no means, but I thought it would be a breeze. And mile 26 to 28, I realized I had to run that again. And that was the first time in a long time that my mind kind of played tricks on me and was like, you got to run this again. Can you do it? Right. And I was starting to get fatigued at that point, and I was actually with him up until this point, and then him and another guy, Kyle Sabo, they started pulling off, and I started falling off that pace, and it kind of put me in a place where I had to make a decision like, okay, are you just gonna walk it in, kind of like sandbag a little bit so you feel better, or are you gonna push through this little thing that you're going through? So I ended up pushing through, and I think I got like mile 31. I think my next point was I wanted to hit a 50K, right?
Yeah.
It was mile 31, and then that's where I stopped feeling pain at all, and I turned on the jets, and I started hawking people down from that point. And I felt good. I was in a better mindset, and I keep thinking back, pain is a temporary endeavor, and working through that, I think I've had training doing this before. There's been many times in challenging Army training exercises, leadership schools, that have hit that point to where I'm like, oh well, this hurts. I don't really want to do this anymore, but I push through, and the outcome is always better if you just keep moving.
Yeah,
right?
and Snaketail 50 is a great challenging race for anybody looking for anything.
Yeah.
I kind of thought I could come in there and run like an easy sub 10 hour 50, and I fought for that 9:57 or 9:54, whatever I ran. I fought hard for that thing. Also, if you go out there, the cabins on the property where we stayed was insane, folks. So we get these directions. I don't even pay the person. I just, because Becca Jones is like, oh, you can contact. There's like a list on a website with like phone numbers, call for like different cabins. We stayed at like Betty Lou's place or something like that.
Betty Lou, right?
Yeah, something like that. And so I call, get everything set up, whatever. We're good to go. We're looking for it. Unfortunately, we left a little later than we wanted to, and it was dark. I mean, dark out there.
Very hard.
And we're trying to find this cabin in the woods, quite literally. We roll down to it. It's something out of a horror movie. It is something where three guys, because it's me, you, and Kyle Sutherland, three guys go out to run an ultramarathon and possibly get axe murdered in this wood line, and nobody's going to be able to find you. Like, that's where we were at.
Yeah, I was a little bit on edge.
You didn't even get out of the car.
Yeah, we were in the dark, walking down a driveway that was probably 100 yards long to a house in the back.
So we go to this little shack, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we thought it was.
It looked like a scary movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's a house to the right where I thought Betty Lou lived or whatever. And so we're over at the shack, and nobody's opening the door, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know. So I contact, and then Gar's like, there's somebody in that house over there. And it's Betty, but she is probably, I mean, gosh, got to be 90 years old and, 4'9", and the sweetest lady. But like I said, once again, if you're talking horror movie stuff, she could fit the bill. If you throw a little scary face on her.
Yeah, it was, first of all, there was no lights, and I could just see her in the shadows, and I wasn't sure if that was a human or not, but it was. Betty Lou is the sweetest person. The whole community there is awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got to get this experience. And, we get in the house. I had to find somewhere that was not close to the door because I was a little, I was scared. I was uncomfortable. So I ended up, falling asleep pretty fast. I'm pretty sure that you didn't. So.
Yeah, the house had like Buddhist stuff all over the place, different type of religious things, mirrors, a lot of different mirrors. It was. Then we slept down in the basement type section where there were some bugs on the floor and no service at all. Yeah, no cell service. And yeah, Gross fell asleep in 5 minutes, and like literally 5 minutes later, I'm hearing like crunching leaves outside, and we had to sign a waiver from Betty Lou of like anything that happens here isn't like we're not liable for, and we're like, dude, this is a little wild. And but no, it turned out great. I just wanted to add that in there because that was was pretty funny. Yeah, so. Yeah, Mid-State Mile is coming up. We're 7 days out right now. You guys will listen to this on Wednesday, so it'll be a little different, but we're a week out right now, Saturday. How are you feeling ready?
You know,
like what are the feelings right now? 7 days out, you're 1 week away.
I don't think I've ever felt ready for anything, but I do think that I have been strictly training both in the weight room and running since January of this year. And I think that I may not physically be at 100% because I've had some setbacks recently with some injuries. But mentally, I think I'm in the best place that I've been in a long time. And I think that's a little bit dangerous. And I'm ready to go out there and leave it out on the trail. In that aspect, I think that I'll never be ready, but I know that I am ready to give 100% and leave it all out there.
If you have
happens.
A, B, and C goals, what are they?
Yeah.
A being like win the race or something like that. It doesn't have to be that, but I'm saying it would be like the top, and then from echelon down.
I think my A goal is to run till I physically can't. That is my A goal. Is I don't have a mileage goal. I've listened to podcasts. Eric said it. I want to live within that 20-minute window. I want to live in that mile. I think my A goal is to go as far as I can, and put myself in a position. I personally want to make it to the second day. I would like to make it to the second night. I think if I get that far, I think maybe I could tap into something there. But my goal is simply to run my race, right? My own goal is to run as far as I can go. I don't have a mileage goal. I know that, I need to eclipse 50 miles. I want to do that.
For a distance PR.
But after that, I am running until I can't any longer. My B goal, obviously, build connections, build friendships out there. I want to learn about people. I want to share memories. I think that's what, from what I'm getting from people who've ran the race, that's what this is all about, is, getting people further than they have ever been, right? So somebody will get me further than I have ever been. I want to be an influence for somebody else to help them get further than they have ever been. That's my B goal.
I like that.
Yeah. And then
if you don't have a seagoal. If you don't
seagull? No, I don't have a seagull.
Okay.
I'm going to leave it all out there.
Yeah. All right. Then I've asked Eric and Tim, so you're going to have to give me your top three. If you had to put money down today on 3 people that you think could win the race next Saturday, who you got?
People are going to think I'm crazy, but I've always been taught to bet on myself. I'll be in the top 3.
I like it.
Whether I do it or not, oh well. I'll be there next year trying to be in the top 3. I will always bet on myself. I think people have underestimated you. So I will say you are going to be in the top 3. I know that's crazy, folks. There's a lot of really good runners out there, and I respect that. There's a lot of people who've been training. Aaron Dana, I see you every day, just crushing elevation. Mark Dowdle, nobody can doubt that guy, right? And then you got Harvey. People are sleeping on Harvey.
A little bit.
Established runner, professional. And what you got? The Baker dad.
Brian Baker.
Yeah, Brian Baker.
Doug
Moore.
Yeah.
Cody Eubanks.
Yeah, Kale,
all great runners, and no disrespect to you. I'm going to go myself as top 3 because I'm always going to bet on myself regardless of any circumstance. I was always taught that. Bet on yourself, 100%. You got to believe. Second, bet on your friends. Dylan Ledbetter, for sure. Folks, he's recovered. I trained with him. 250 miles. He just did it. A lot of elevation. You should be scared. This guy's got grit. He's got experience on the course. This is your 4th year?
Mm-hmm.
4th year on the course. A lot of those folks have ran this course a lot, but I'm pretty sure you've put in, what, are you in like the top 5, top 10 mileage on the course?
Well, technically,
recently? What is the numbers here?
I'm in the top 5 for total mileage at Mid-State, and then, I don't know. But last year I had the most miles on the course. Between Mid-State and Tennessee Mile, I have the most miles.
Right. I think it would be a shame not to mention you in that category. I know Aaron's tagging you and everything. I see it every day. He definitely thinks you're up there. I personally think you're up there, and I was always taught, bet on yourself, bet on your friends. Right? And third, hey, I got to go to the one that I see lifting the most. I'm going to go to Mark Dowd on number 3.
Right.
I think this isn't a speed race, right? It's more of like the people who are training a different way, and Aaron Dana could be up there too. The guy is crushing it. I'm watching. He's crushing it. But I think Mark Dowd spends a lot of time in the gym, and I think he said he's 200 pounds now. So obviously he's weight training, and I think weight training would translate great to endurance and moving slow for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And he's won 2 backyards. He's on something here, folks.
He's the big name right now.
I'm saying Mark Dowdle. I hate to leave out Harvey, but I have to bet on myself, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I like it. And you mentioned most of the big hitters. We'll see. Mark just doesn't have anything that has this type of elevation, but that doesn't mean anything. It's just just unknown. So, and same with Harvey. Like Harvey's never raced anything in this type of format either. So all these people that are rookies, it's all question mark stuff. And then for the people that are established, you just hope to have another good day out there, But yeah, Aaron being a past champ, Aaron's training hard, man.
I almost want to say Aaron because
Aaron, yeah, I feel good about Aaron.
I'm watching Aaron, and he's doing a lot of elevation. He just traveled to the mountains. I don't even know the guy, folks, but I follow him, and you can recognize that he's putting everything he has into this, and I think he will definitely be there as well.
Yeah.
But,
the last question of the podcast, we're here on the Made New Project. We're talking about people, outliers in different situations, different facets of life, and where they think they've become made new, as in transforming themselves. And I think we do this a lot in life, multiple different stages of it. Where do you think is one of your definitive points of where you felt made new?
Okay, I will say the definitive moment that I was made new and that I've changed my trajectory of life would have been when we had our baby boy Maddox back in 2017. He came. I realized that life was no longer about myself. I knew that I would have to make a sacrifice on the things that I wanted to do in life and be that person to do everything I could so that he could grow and be successful. And I think I went from a selfish person to a person who did everything possible to be the best dad that I could. At that point, I put everything aside, and I think having a kid definitely changes you, and I hope you get that feeling as well someday. But in saying that, this is the Made New Project, I think that was the first initial step to the project, and then since then I think multiple things have happened in my life, and multiple phases of the project, and I would just say that's the definitive moment. I also had another kid, Joseph, just as great of a feeling having the second kid. Extremely grateful of having children. My wife, she did a lot to give birth to those both those boys, and we've taken care of them, and they're really just my purpose in life, and I would say both of them. And, that's why I strive to be better, is because I want to be better for them. And I think, having kids for me is the greatest part of my life right now. So
that's awesome. Yeah. What do we think the chances are that Maddox runs the Mid-State Mile in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, Maddox definitely has an extreme talent that I can't describe, right? He's ran a 5K in 32 minutes right off the couch. He's the kind of kid that, I thought I was decent at baseball. He is years ahead of me. And at 8 years old, I was sitting the bench. 8 years old, he's catching 50-mile-an-hour fastballs.
He's raking, dude.
He's something else, and I think that he is definitely going to be incredible, and I do think that, honestly, he'll at least run that 5K out there.
Is he running this year?
I haven't signed him up, but I guess
if he comes out Friday, throw him in there.
Maybe. Is it Friday?
Yeah.
I might have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddox is extremely, extremely athletic and just genuinely a good kid in general. I think he has a good attitude, and I think he likes to challenge himself, and I think, he is just he just cares about others as well. So I love him for that more than anything. I love that he he cares for other people, and he's empathetic. So
yeah, he's good. He's funny too, man. He crap talks a little bit, and I like it.
oh yeah, he's definitely he's a dog.
Yeah, so if he comes out there Friday, I'll be crap talking him a little bit about the loop, making sure he gets 3 of them.
Yeah,
and he'll like that. He likes that stuff. You know,
he's a tough boy.
Yeah. Well, Michael, you got anything just for the people, man? If you wanted to just say something motivational, inspirational, word of advice, just I want to give you the floor just to kind of express anything you'd like.
Ooh, motivational. Now, like I said, always just bet on yourself, right? You just have to fully believe that you can do something, and for that to achieve. If you're counting yourself out from the beginning, you're not going to get there, right? And if something goes wrong, you just got to learn that something will go wrong. I think you taught me this. Expect something to go wrong, and you're just trying to always troubleshoot and navigate that. It's the same as life, ultra running, whatever job you're in, struggles in life, marriage, kids, all that stuff. You're going to run into issues. It's just how you navigate that issue and get right on the right trail, right? Since we're talking about ultra, get on the right trail.
Yeah.
Folks, I just say bet on yourself, trust in the Lord, love fiercely, and stay motivated.
Yeah, I like that. Be an outlier, Yep. Don't do everything that's normal. But yeah, thank you guys again. Another episode of the Made New Project. Really appreciate your time, brother. Like, what a good conversation, dude.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you as a friend, a brother in Christ, man. And I hope we go 1-2 out there at Mid-State. That'd be crazy.
I'll be there.
If we were 1-2, one of us wins, the other one
assists. It's a stretch, but
don't count us out,
I'm not going to count myself out. I will 100% believe that if afforded the opportunity to be there, Dan, I'll be there.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, we'll see you guys next week. We'll do a recap, a post Mid-State
cool.
next week sometime.
Be cool.
Yeah. All right, folks. Appreciate your time. This is the Made New Project. We are out.